and remotely through Microsoft Teams. Translation facilities are available for this meeting. Please ensure that you have your headsets if required. Please ensure your microphones are off, and before we begin, I will ask Councillor Angus Morrison to lead us in prayer.
Lord our God, we thank you once again for this opportunity to come before you. You are a sovereign God. We ask that we would be still and know that thou art God at this time. We come before you as individuals, as a group of individuals with differing needs and different thoughts, different concerns, but that we could set all our troubles to thee, Lord. For you are the one who listens to every one of us. You are the one who walks with us each day, and that you would continue to set our paths before you. O Lord, we ask that you would continue to bless and pity us, shine on us with thy face, that the earth thy way and nations all may know thy saving grace. We ask that you would bless everyone present here today in the chamber and online, any who may have different circumstances and needs, Lord, that I may feel are out with their control. Remember the sick and the suffering especially. Remember our colleagues in the chamber and the council here, Lord, who are undergoing medical treatment at this time or waiting to receive results of tests. Any apprehension they have, Lord, that they can put their cares to thee. O Lord, we know that here we have no continuing city. Life is swiftly passing by. We are asked in thy presence, Lord, to live each moment as it were our last. We thank you that we have a Saviour, Christ Jesus, one who died for sinners such as we are, for we sin daily in thought, word, and action. We ask that you would bless our deliberations this day, Lord, that you would be with the chair and vice chair, the chief executive, all the officers and chief officers, all who work for this establishment, Lord, and the work that they do. That we will be truly thankful for them, Lord, the labours and endeavours that we so often take for granted. O Lord, that we would look after one another, uphold one another, and keep one another. Be with us now the rest of this day and pardon us freely for many sins. Amen.
Thank you, Angus. So the meeting is now being recorded and will be made available on the Comhairle's website following the meeting. Items 19 and 21 will be taken in private at the end of the meeting. I'm also ruling items 6, 14 and 16 as urgent to allow the matters to be considered prior to the next meeting of the committee. And just a reminder to members, if you're asking a question, if you just leave your microphones on, that way in case you want to come back to the officer's answers. Item 1 is the minute of the meeting of the 14th of June 2023. That's for noting. Thank you. For approval and declaration of interests. If you are invited to declare an interest in any agenda item at this point, and if you become aware of an interest during the meeting, then I would ask you to declare it at that time. When declaring an interest, it would be helpful if members would indicate briefly the nature of that interest. This helps to make our decision-making more open and transparent for the public. So item 3 is the minute of the meeting of Human Resources Subcommittee of 13 September 2023, and that's for noting and approval of the recommendation at item 19.2 of the minute. Moved. Thank you. Item 4 is the minute of the meeting of Budget Board of 4th July 2023, and that's for noting. Noted. Thank you. Item 5 is the minute of meeting of Community Safety Board of 13 September 2023, and that's for approval of the recommendations at items 3 and 4 of the minute. Have approval? Yep. Thank you. Item 6 is the minute of the meeting of Committee na Gaelic of 19 September 2023, and again for approval of the recommendations at items 4, 5 and 6 of the minute. Have approval? Thank you very much. We now move on to strategy section. So item 7, National Islands Plan Review Consultation. So this report seeks approval of the draft consultation response to the National Islands Plan Review. The plan sets out 13 strategic objectives to be achieved by the delivery of 134 commitments over the 5-year lifetime of the plan. A draft consultation response is appended to the report, and the response confirms that the 13 strategic objectives of the National Islands Plan are broadly in line with the long-standing objectives of agencies active in the islands and should be retained. The potential for duplication of effort between the government's islands team and ongoing work on these objectives at local level is highlighted. To avoid this duplication, it is recommended that a new National Islands Plan should be introduced with a smaller number of commitments, each of them subject to rigorous performance monitoring through the assignation of local authority key performance indicators. And Eilean McKeever will answer members' questions. Members have any questions or comments for Eilean? I can't see Callum Ian online at the moment. Will the, yeah. Sorry, can you put your lights off for a second? Let the Chief Executive come in. Angus, can you put yours off? I'll bring you in first.
Thank you, Chair. Just in Mr McKeever's absence, it's a fairly robust response and it's really summed up at 2.4. You know, we welcome a National Islands Plan, we welcome its objectives, but we do consider the number of commitments at 134 to be excessive. There's a risk there that they get lost. So we're suggesting that duplication be avoided, that the commitments be reduced but more rigorously monitored. And of course, we are looking for some budget to be allocated to island local authorities, including ourselves, of course, with specific performance indicators. So really, it could be summed up as saying we would like the plan to be replaced with something more focused.
Yeah. Thank you very much. Angus, if you want to put your light on, I'll bring you in. Councillor McCormick.
Thank you very much, Chair. I'm not a member of your committee. I'm quite happy with the content of this report. I wondered, is there any way in which the sum of money is going to be protected from inflation?
Thank you, Chief Executive.
Thank you, Chair. I'm afraid I can't give any comfort on that. I mean, it's a point we make continually to both Scottish and UK governments that the effects of inflation on any funding are marked just now, even with inflation falling. But no one will commit. No one will give a commitment on that at this time.
Thank you, Angus. Councillor Crichton.
Thank you, Chairman. In terms of the Islands Act was established in 2018, and this local authority, along with the other island authorities, were pioneered that. And at the very heart of that legislation, we hoped would be the island impact assessments or island proofing, which we would hoped would have had an impact across all our policy objectives and developments. And you know, and that was a responsibility really of the Scottish Government to use that mechanism to look at our position in a more favourable way. But I think it's really important that we put across that message in this consultation that the impact assessment has not been used to its full potential in a way that it would benefit us as an island authority. So I think we need to put that across very strongly, that there's an obligation on the Scottish Government to use this mechanism. It's enshrined in law and it's there to benefit us, and it should be utilised.
Yeah. Happy to do that. Yeah, I agree entirely. There's a number of areas we could highlight there, so we'll put that into consultation response. Are there any other questions or comments from members? See any lights? No. In that case, there's recommendation for approval, a paragraph 3.1 of the report. Approved. Thank you. On to item 8 and draft corporate strategy 2024 to 2027. So this report seeks approval of the draft corporate strategy for public consultation. The strategy has been updated, covering areas to include topics raised at a seminar held in August 2023, which provided members with an opportunity to review the corporate strategy and set out priority areas for inclusion. The draft corporate strategy continues to have 4 priority areas and a set of strategic outcomes. Delivery of the strategic outcomes is measured through a set of outcome measures, which will be used to report progress annually to the coroner. It's proposed to consult on the draft strategy via the coroner's Have Your Say consultation pages and through the Community Planning Partnership for a period of up to 4 weeks. Feedback will be used to inform the final draft before it is presented to the coroner for approval. And Norma Skinner is available to speak to the report and answer members' questions. Norma, thank you.
Thank you, Chair. I don't have an awful lot to add to that. Just to say that I've tried to take on board comments from the seminar that was held, and as part of that added an introduction section which keeps relevant national and local issues and pulls them together. And happy to take any questions.
Thank you very much, Norma. Any questions or comments from members? See any hands up online and no lights. In that case, it'd be good to get the responses from the consultation and just to build up the final draft. So if there's a little more opportunity for people to contribute to that. So there's recommendations for approval at paragraph 3.1 of the report. Do we agree? Agreed, thank you. Item 9, this report seeks approval of the 2023 to 2027 Corporate Workforce Plan, and the appended plan for 23 to 27 provides an updated narrative with a revised action plan. The plan has been developed following analysis of the Corlear's workforce data and examination of areas such as recruitment, hard-to-fill roles and future needs. And the information has been used to ensure that the Corlear has plans in place to meet the strategic and operational needs of the Corlear. If the plan is approved, further work will be undertaken to support services with their service level workforce plans and to monitor progress with the corporate action plan. And again, Norma Skinner is available to speak to the report and answer members' questions. Norma.
Thank you again, Chair. Yes, the corporate workforce plan have updated the demographic information and also information on our own workforce. As was highlighted, a lot of the priorities are around internal development. You'll see from it that we are having some recruitment challenges. Just to let you know that this was approved, this policy was approved by the JCC last month in August 2023. Happy to take any questions.
Thank you very much. Any questions or comments from members? No, in that case, there's recommendation for approval at 3.1 of the report. Approved. Oh, sorry, Angus, I didn't see you. Are you wanting to come in?
Yeah, thank you very much, Chair. I apologise for holding things up. Running through all of the reports, as I was reading them, I was conscious of the fact that we're about to go into a period of time when the council is going to be put under severe pressure in order to support the developments that are going to come in the very near future. And I just wondered whether we need to take cognizance of that in creating a workforce plan. And later there is a diagram which is indicating the structure that we currently have in a later report. And I just wondered whether these reports need to reflect the potential of the future in ensuring, for example, that we have the right members of staff in place to deal with all of these particular issues. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, the Chief Executive will address that at the review item, if that's okay, unless you have to have a response just now, Councillor McCormick. We'll take it back then. Okay, thank you. In that case, the recommendation for approvals at 3.1. Agreed, thank you. Item 10 is the Corporate Strategy Annual Report. And this report concerns the report for 2022 to 22, it says 2007, but 2027. Going back in time. The Corporate Strategy 22 to 27 was approved by the Corlear on the 29th September 2021 and informs the business plans. The strategy has 4 strategic priorities as follows: to strengthen the local economy, to support children, families and young people, to support resilient communities and quality of life, and to be a sustainable and inclusive council. There are 5 strategic outcomes under each of the priorities. Business plan actions are aligned to the outcomes and are supported by a range of measures that affect important life outcomes, KPIs. The KPI results for the 3 years 2019-20 to 2021-22 are reported in the Corporate Strategy Annual Report in the appendix to the report, and Fiona Nape will answer members' questions. Fiona?
Thank you, Chair. Obviously, this is the first year of reporting this suite of indicators, and where possible, 3 years of data have been provided. The data for the KPIs are extracted from national databases and include measures that council services contribute to through service delivery and in partnership. Although the pie charts aligned with each priority show the overall performance of the 21-22 actual results against target, the Corporate Strategy Annual Report is not a performance report. It's designed to provide trend analysis of key KPIs to support data-driven decision-making. So if members do not feel any of the KPIs are the correct KPIs to support decision-making, alternative suggestions are welcome. are welcome. And it's important to remember that the published results reflect a period when communities and council services were still managing the significant ongoing impact of the coronavirus pandemic, and therefore some data may not be comparable to previous years. Where possible, services have set aspirational targets to 2030, and elected members can view these into plan. So I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thanks very much, Fiona. Do members have any questions or comments? No, I see no lights and no hands up. In that case, just an offer to members to get contact Fiona if they do have any suggestions for alternate KPIs. Okay, thank you very much. That report is, what was it for noting? For noting, yeah. Okay, it's noted. Thank you. Item 11, this report is for noting again and seeks approval to take the draft local heat and energy efficiency strategy to public consultation. The Local Heat and Energy Efficiency Strategy Scotland Order 2022 places a duty on local authorities to prepare, publish and update a local heat and energy efficiency strategy, to keep this under review and to publish an updated LEES, I think it's called LHES, for every 5 years. The LEES sets out the long-term plan for the entire local authority area to decarbonise heat and improve energy efficiency. And a draft local heat and energy efficiency strategy and delivery plan has been developed and they are appended to the report. Anna Hume will speak to the report and answer members' questions.
Just to clarify that the Comhairle is required to publish this by the 31st of December of this year, and it's a requirement to take it to public consultation. So a draft has been developed and a revised draft would be developed following consultation, incorporating feedback received.
Thank you very much. Councillor Crichton.
Thank you, Chairman. This is a real substantial report and there's a lot of good stuff in it and a lot to take in for it to be included in the agenda. I'm just wondering, maybe at the conclusion of the consultation or during it, could we possibly have a seminar on the strategy?
Yeah.
I'm not one for more work on officers, but I think it would be really beneficial for us to see the link between or the strategy in terms from home insulation and heating to very big plans for renewables right across the board. I think it would be really useful to put all these things in context. And
yeah, I think you're right. Yeah, it'll be useful for the context setting, just for us to have a seminar. And I'm seeing nods from the back of the room. So yeah, we'll take that forward. Councillor McCormick.
Thank you, Chair. Again, I'm not a member of your committee. I very much welcome this report, and it's very, very detailed. And I doubt very much if I absorbed all of what it has said at one reading. I am particularly pleased about it because it's going to have a significant effect in implementation on levels of fuel poverty in the Outer Hebrides, which is a very, very serious task that we must address. I can say a little bit, there is a reference in the report to the project that is currently being run by Point and Sandwich Power, and I know something about that. And I just wonder to what extent we might be able to duplicate the approach that has been used there, because it has been very effective. At the last time of asking, 250 people in Point have been assisted. Now, they haven't been assisted directly by Point and Sandwich Power necessarily. They've been assisted to know about what assistance is available from a variety of different sources. Many of these are referred to in this report. Indeed, there are some there I didn't even know existed. So what I was wondering about was, when it comes to the implementation of what comes from this, because from the point of view of the Poverty Action Group, for example, which again I'm associated with, it's targeting the people who really need help. That is the number one priority. That's what we really need to do. And if this, the function of this, if that is part of it, then we will be able radically to reduce fuel poverty. It can be done. There will be a need, however, to put a resource behind that. And I think that's something that as a council we should seriously consider. What resource can we put behind assisting people to find the support that they can to have their houses appropriately insulated and heated? I think if we can do that, and there is a lot of support out there, you know, from various government projects of one kind or another, but people just don't know about it, and those who know about it don't know how to access it. I mean, I could tell you all sorts of stories about people down in Point who had some who have put their heating off completely but couldn't afford it, and a way has been found to allow them to have heating in their home again at a reasonable cost. So solutions can be found, and it's a big issue, you know, and we might have to put some money to. I'm suggesting to you. Leader, that we might have to put some resource towards this in the future. Thank you very much.
I'll bring in Chief Executive first. Sorry, if there's lights on, Chief Executive.
Chair, thank you. These are important comments, and I think the seminar approach that has been suggested is a good one. I mean, this is an excellent report in my view. It sets out a lot of commitments, but they are not commitments that we will deliver alone, and they're not commitments which we can or should deliver alone, and they will require resource. And those of you who were, many of you who were at the seminar on the review of organisational structures, and I'll come on to that, we know that energy, net zero, just transition, call it what you will, are going to be significant areas for us going forward. The resourcing of that, again, and I will speak about that in the private item, is challenging. We cannot at the moment increase our employee numbers without cutting services. That's the brutal truth. And yet we need and we want and we will have a duty to play our part in supporting the community as its response to these requirements, and to usher in, I hope, a new and different age of how we heat and fuel our homes. So there's an awful lot to be done there. There's a parallel between this and the anti-poverty work which Councillor McCormick leads at member level, because what we need is coordination. What we need is support to bring all this together. And that's what the strategy seeks to define, what at least we are seeking that support to do and bring about. So very mindful of these considerations, but I think a seminar on this would be useful. Thank you, Chair.
Yes, I think the points you raised, we can definitely discuss them in more detail at the seminar. Anna, were you wanting to come in on that, or are you okay just now? Okay. Councillor Murray, had you next?
Thank you very much, Chair. I think the point about resources coming from, we can't do it on our own, is going to be even more clear after 4:30 today, when the Prime Minister apparently is going to roll back on a number of these commitments. We don't know which ones yet, but that could have a big effect on what we do locally. So I think it's a good idea to keep an eye on that too.
Are there any other questions or comments from members? Councillor McLean.
Thanks, Chair. I'm not a member of your committee either, but I endorse what Councillor Crichton said and what Councillor McCormick and previous speakers before me. But am I saying that we're putting the cart before the horse? Should this have come to a seminar before it came? Because you're going to agree on a draft here. And therefore the draft does not become a draft, it becomes operational. So I look at Appendix B there. I think it's Appendix A, and there's 85 pages. And really that's a lot to take in. I've taken a superficial read of it, and I can only say it's superficial. It's an excellent report because of the amount of work that's gone into it, and I commend the officers for putting it. But in order for you here who are on the PNR to approve this as a draft, you've got to make sure yourselves that you've read it. And to be honest with you, I'm sitting here and I'm just saying, well, there's an awful lot of work in it, and the officers have put a lot of work in it. But to pass it through on in a few moments. I don't think it's doing us justice. And I do say that a seminar maybe should have been done before this came in as a draft rather than after, because you're approving it.
I'll bring Anna in first. Anna?
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, just to confirm, so we're seeking approval to take it to consultation in a draft form, so it wouldn't be approved following feedback from the consultation and following the member seminar. We would seek to put together a revised draft for which we would then take to the November committees for approval. So at this stage, it's not for approving, it's just for approving to take it to public consultation and to that next stage where we would have a member seminar.
Yes, sorry, but you're approving a draft to take.
Yeah, I would suggest that for us to go to the public, we do have to have a draft of some sort for them to lead the discussions. So yeah, and members have had a week to go through it. I know we've had a lot of reports to look at, but we should have had a good grasp of some of these reports. But I think the seminar gives a really good chance to go through it in detail, and it gives us the chance to change it from our point of view, but and also along with what the community see from their feedback. So, any other questions or comments from members? No, in that case, we're recommending it's for approval. Yeah, for approval to go to consultation. Approved. Thank you. Item 12. This report is for noting and provides an update on the progress of the 2023 to 2028 capital programme as at 30th June 2023. Since the initial programme was set, a further 8 million has been awarded to the Comhairle by the Scottish Government towards a number of projects. Projects totalling 28.2 million were carried forward from the 18 to 23 capital programme, and the delivery of these projects is ongoing, and the detail can be seen in the appendix to the report. As at 30th June 2023, 4.5 million of expenditure had been incurred, largely on projects carried forward from the 2018 to 2023 programme. The full breakdown of that is detailed in appendix to the report, and Norman MacDonald will speak to the report and answer members' questions. Norman?
Thank you, Chair. As you said yourself, most of the expenditures taking place on the leftover projects from the 2018 to 23 programme. All the details in the appendix. I obviously don't have the up-to-date information on all of these, but if any members have questions, I'll take that back to the lead officer here. Happy to take any questions.
Thank you very much. Any questions or comments from members? No, but the offer still stands, Norman, if they get in touch with you directly. Great, thank you very much. So that report is for noting. Yeah, thank you. Item 13, this report details the Comhairle's forecast revenue outturn for 23-24. A summary of the financial performance to the end of June 2023 is detailed at Appendix 1 to the report and shows a projected net overspend of 351,000. After adjusting for the £1.4 million relating to health and social care, which will be funded from the IGB reserves, the net position for the Comhairle is an underspend of just over 1 million. The unaudited accounts for 22-23 showed that the Comhairle held balances of 2.9 million earmarked for the forward budget strategy, in addition to its current policy of holding 3.5 million in reserves. The additional 1.3 million income is offset by additional costs of 235,000 for the air subsidy contract and 286,000 in general revenue grant adjustments, which will increase the available balance to 3.8 million. The projected deficit for 24-25 is currently estimated at 6.8 million. And even if the full balance available is used, further savings will be required to bridge the budget shortfall. It's essential that a significant amount of recurring savings are identified in order to improve the Comhairle's financial sustainability. Departments are currently reviewing their service budgets to propose savings and/or reductions in service for future years, and this will be presented to the Budget Board in the first instance. Norman is here again to talk to the report and answer members' questions. Norman?
Thank you, Chair. I think you've covered the main points in the report there yourself, but I'll go through the three main contributing factors to the 1 million variance that we have at the moment. Members will recall that at the budget setting, we increased their estimate for investment income by £1 million. So this was taking account of the balance we expected to hold and also the interest rates at that time. Interest rates have continued to increase above expectations, and this, together with additional grant income we have for capital projects that still haven't taken place, means that we've still got a high level of investments and the interest rates are higher, so it's going to generate even more income. I think that will take us about $500,000 extra income. Since the budget was set in February, the cash inflows from the Port Authority loan have also started. And we've got more certainty on the loan advances and when that money will come in, so we've revised the estimate for that as well. The outturn for the council tax income account for 22-23 showed that we had higher income than we expected, so we've reviewed the estimates for council tax income to take account of that, and also the expected level of discounts that we're going to give following the issuing of the bills in March. Obviously, a lot can happen in the remainder of the year. Obviously, we don't know what's going to happen with the winter. Last year, winter maintenance was 750,000 overspent. There's a pay dispute that still hasn't been resolved. So, although the additional 1 million we've identified is very welcome, it's got to be looked at in the context of these other issues. Happy to take any questions.
Thanks very much, Norman. Yeah, it's good to get the extra income, but just the context that that's in is worrying. Members, any questions or comments? See no lights. Oh, sorry, Councillor Fraser.
Thank you, Leader. I'm not a member of your committee. It's just a brief question for Norman. Regarding our investments, what percentage of them are on variable interest rates?
All our investments will be on interest rates at the time that we actually make the investment. So whereas last year we were getting interest rates of maybe just 0.1%, we're now getting interest rates of maybe up to 5% on some of our investments. So just the interest rate is the interest rate prevailing at the time.
Okay.
And depending on obviously the length of the investment.
Right. Very good. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. No other questions or comments? In that case, do we agree to note and approve the recommendation at 3.1? Approved, thank you. Item 14, this report is for noting and provides information on the Collier's Treasury management activities for 2022-23. During that time, investment of these balances generated income of just over 1 million, £1,092,000, which was £1,016,000 more than the budget, as reported in the revenue outturn in June. This was due to the unexpected rise in interest rates after a long period of very low interest rates. And again, Norman's here to speak to the report and answer any questions. Norman?
Thank you, Chair. This report would normally have been to members in June, along with the outturn report. But there's some items of information that weren't available at that time. So the guidance in relation to Treasury management states that this should come to committee within 6 months of the end of the year. So we're still within that. It provides details of the Treasury activities during 22-23, as you said, but the main point being that the savings that were made at the end of the year. But then that's previously reported.
Yeah.
Happy to take any questions.
Okay, thank you very much. Any questions from members? No, in that case, do we agree to note the report? Thank you. Mr. Norman. Item 15, this report is for noting again and provides a summary of the Treasury management activity during the first quarter of 23-24. The Treasury Management Strategy for 2023-24, which was approved by the Collier on the 25th of April 2023, included the recommended prudential indicator estimates for the year. The indicators have been updated to reflect the changes to date and are shown in paragraph 10 of the report under prudential indicators. And again, Norman's available to speak to the report and answer any questions. Norman?
Thank you, Chair. This is a quarterly version of the previous report. It's a new requirement to update members on Treasury activities on a quarterly basis. So this report will be coming from now on at the same time as the quarterly revenue monitoring. So it'll just be an update on the investments and any income, that kind of thing.
Okay.
So happy to take any questions.
Thank you very much. Are there any questions or comments? No, in that case, do members agree to note the report? Agreed, thank you. Item 16, this report details applications for non-domestic rates hardship relief. In recent months, there have been a number of inquiries from ratepayers in the hospitality sector regarding the possibility of applying for hardship relief. Again, Norman will speak to the report and answer members' questions.
Thank
Norman?
you, Chair. The reason there's reports before committee is that under the Comhairle's policy, any hardship relief awarded has to be approved by Policy and Resources Committee. Hardships at discretionary relief, which means that the Comhairle will have to pay 25% of any cost of any awards. As you've said yourself, we've had a number of inquiries about hardship relief in relation to operational issues with ferries and pier during the last few months. So prior to taking these forward, I thought it would be best to seek members' views on whether hardship relief should be considered in these circumstances. There are two main criteria for hardship relief, these being that the business would not be able to continue without the relief, and also there has to be some sort of benefit to the local taxpayer. There are some statistics in the report which demonstrate that this type of relief isn't widely used across Scotland. And I think this reflects really the difficulty in demonstrating these two criteria. I mean, there's no doubt that business have suffered financial loss as a result of the service issues, but using hardship relief as a means of compensation for this, these are going to be ongoing issues, I think, and using hardship relief as a means of compensation for that could potentially open the Comhairle up to a lot of ongoing applications, which wouldn't really be affordable. So happy to take any questions.
Okay, thank you very much, Norman. Members, are there any questions on the report? No, in that case, do we agree recommendation at 3.1 in the report? Agreed, thank you. Item 17, this report recommends that a number of irrecoverable debts totaling £27,843.26 in respect of council tax, sundry debts and housing benefit overpayments be written off. Every effort has been made to recover debts due, and write-off recommendations are made only when all recovery routes have been exhausted. And again, Norman is available to speak to the report and answer questions. Norman?
Thank you, Chair. Nothing to add. It's just a standard report.
Yeah. Okay, any questions or comments from members? No. In that case, we agree to recommendation at 3.1. Yeah. Thank you. Item 18, this report seeks to approve revised charges for Comhairle Community Care Services delegated to the IGB for the financial year 2023-24. The report sets out the framework for charges for 2023-24 for community care services in the context of COSLA guidance on charging for social work services. The Comhairle continues to follow COSLA guidance on charges. The charges relating to residential services set out in the report are the maximum charge for each service and do not translate into the amount that all individuals will pay towards their care. The recommendations are based on applying the same approach to the calculations of uplifts for the previous financial year. Due to the budgetary provisions of the Comhairle and the IGB, a report will be submitted to the December series of meetings introducing the detail of full cost recovery calculations for Comhairle residential and extra care housing services. This would mean that the financial assessment process would be applied to the full cost of service provision as opposed to the practice of a charge set by applying a 5% increase annually. We've got Graham Miller available to answer questions. Is Graham online, or will be Emma? Emma, hi there. Yeah.
Apologies, Leader. I had intended in appearing in person, but you rattled through the last few agenda items so quickly I was caught off guard. Happy to take any questions.
No problem. Councillor McCormick.
Thank you, Chair. I am not a member of your committee. If I understand this correctly, and we are charging £1,287 per individual room per week, that is nearly £67,000 a year. If I were to sell my house for £200,000, I wouldn't even get 3 years in one of our homes. How does this actually work in reality? Because these numbers are just mind-blowing.
Yeah, Emma.
Sorry, Emma, should have given
No.
you some warning.
No, that's absolutely fine. And it's a financial assessment process, so it's not taken off in one chunk. There's tariffs applied, and the drawdown on funding is incremental rather than lump sums. So it's over a period of time. Colleagues in revenues and benefits can talk us through it. And there's also a policy paper that was previously circulated. I can dig out if that's of useful to members, so you can see how the tariffs relate. So it's not that a big chunk of money is part of the financial assessments taken off in one go from people's own capital receipts. It's a complicated process, very much driven by individual circumstances. So it's very difficult to give you one example. And yeah.
It just strikes me as mad, to be honest. I'm sure it strikes you that way too, Emma, but this is not the way we should be treating people at all. It's not the way I would like to see us dealing with elderly people who are going into care. I suppose I should express an interest.
Of course.
Leader, when we had the briefing meeting, we were talking about benchmarking with others. Yeah. We are not the highest charge for local authority placements when you compare us to other island authorities. We're below the other two island authorities. Now, that doesn't necessarily give you assurance, Councillor Cormack, that given your comments expressed. But I think the report to December will open up the whole issue regarding cost recovery and charging, because if it was full cost recovery, that charge would be significantly higher.
I understand what you're saying, Emma. Thank you very much. I just wanted to highlight the matter.
Yeah. No, I think you're right to highlight it, Councillor McCormick. Are there any other questions or comments from members? Got a green. Who's green and flashing? There we go, Councillor MacLeod.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, I just wondered, benchmarked across the rest of the country, is mainly private care homes, maybe, I know, but how far apart is the pricing?
Emma?
I can't give you that detail off the cuff in terms of other local authorities, because that's what you're talking about as opposed to independently commissioned homes. But as part of the work that we do for December, we'll give you more of an overview on that. The benchmarking information that you get as part of performance reporting shows that in terms of cost of residential care, we're more towards the upper threshold. But that is also to do with the fact that we have predominantly an in-house service delivery model, whereas other local authorities are purchasing beds at the National Care Home contract rate, which is significantly less.
Yes, we'll get that detail for the report in December. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, great. Councillor Mackenzie.
Thank you. I'm not on your committee. Yeah, just the difference between the independent care homes and, for instance, Bremner Court or whatever, and Archila is quite considerable. How does this come about? The Blackberry, Beaverborough, Bethesda.
Emma?
I think the different frame makeups of the provider, your local authority versus independent or private sector, is always across the country significantly different. So we're not an outlier in terms of there being a difference. But for your assurance, in terms of our commissioning with local providers, we're above the National Care Home contract rate because we previously worked on a framework where we looked at their actual costs and expenditure to work up a local rate that we then inflate annually by the national uplift. So that's how we're in our externally commissioned care home rate is higher than the National Care Home contract rate.
Okay, yeah. Are there any other questions or comments, Ms. Romani?
Thank you, Chair. I just wanted to ask on the hourly rate for direct payments for one-to-one personal care and for the daycare equivalent for adults with learning disabilities. I take it that's an increase that's been referred to there at point H. I know that there are, we do get questions on this particular issue surrounding things like how exactly the money can be used and the gap, or maybe perceived gap between what it is and what the costs are. So I'm just looking for reassurance that this is an increase that's mentioned here.
I believe so. I'll just bring Emma back in.
Yes, it certainly is by the nationally set uplift that we are duty bound to pass on. So and the individual hourly rate that can be broken down into the market kind of sector per hour that somebody gets paid, plus the on costs and factoring administration and payroll and different things.
Thank you for that. And is it easy to get some guidelines on, you know, some of the ways that can be used? Because
Certainly.
can I just get that from yourself? Thanks.
Yes, just come down. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much for that. If there are no other questions or comments, do members agree the recommendation at 3.1? Agreed, thank you. Item 19 will be taken in private at the end of the meeting, so we are on to item 20. This report seeks approval of the Working with Children, Young People and Vulnerable Adults policy, which has been updated to take account of new practices, procedures and legislation. Following a self-assessment in 2020, there was a recommendation for service areas to develop up-to-date policy registers to ensure policies could be easily found, updated or removed as appropriate. The Chief Executive's Department has commenced this work and will review policies as part of a rolling programme. The revised policy is appended to the report, and the policy has been subject to equality checks through the Coroner's integrated impact assessment, and no significant impacts have been identified. Norma Skinner is available to speak to the report and answer members' questions. Norma.
Thank you, Chair. I don't have an awful lot to update to that. Yes, it's updating an HR policy. Worked with the Chief Social Work Officer to make sure that we were using good practice. It's including areas around reporting, disclosure, etc. That weren't in the policy previously. So it's about regulated bodies. It's been approved by the JCC. It went to them in August this year. So I'm happy to take any questions.
Thanks, Norma. Any questions or comments from members? See no lights and no hands. In that case, there's recommendation for approval at paragraph 3.1 of the report. Approved, thank you. Item 21 will also be taken in private at the end of the meeting. So we move on to 22. And this report concerns the requirement to verify the Coroner's commitment to fair work first. To receive public sector grants, the Coroner is required to evidence their compliance with a fair work conditionality alongside their statement of commitment. Further consideration is required to ensure that the Coroner, as an organisation that allocates grants and contracts, is compliant, and these aspects may impact on areas including procurement, accredited training, economic development and business gateway. This may be subject to a further report to fully detail the considerations. And again, Norma Skinner is available to speak to the report and answer members' questions. Norma.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, just to highlight that there was a requirement when some services were looking to apply for funding, that this was required before they could access it. So we have put the Fair Work First statement on our website. We were in touch with the trade unions and we got them to sign off these statements, which is a requirement of it. So it is already up on our website, so it's looking to homologate the decision.
Okay, thank you very much. Are there any questions or comments from members? No. In that case, the recommendation for approval of paragraph 3.1 of the report. Approved. Thank you. Item 23. This report is for noting and provides an update on the projects funded through the Community Council Challenge Fund for 2023-24. Community councils can apply for up to 50% of the total costs of eligible projects up to a maximum grant of £2,000. Application must be submitted by the Community Council for the area, either an applicant in its own right or as a sponsor of a project initiated within the community. There is a limit of one application from each Community Council area in any one financial year. Applications for challenge funding from community councils during 2023-24 are detailed in the report. And Derek Mackay, speak to the report and answer members' questions. Derek.
Thank you, Chair. Nothing to add to the report. It's, as I've said, it is for information, details the projects which are undertaken in the previous year using challenge funding. We are obviously in the middle of the election process and new community councils will be in place, hopefully in all areas, in October and November.
Thank you very much. Councillor Crichton.
Thank you, Chair. It might be an idea maybe to highlight the benefits of the Challenge Fund at this time. We might encourage people to stand for the community councils. The Challenge Fund has been outlined in the report's great benefit and brings in matching funding from other funders. And we're in our own ward, we're missing it. We've got 2 out of the 3 community councils in our ward are defunct at the moment. So communities are missing out on that kind of funding. So it might be worth highlighting in some publicity around the elections of the benefits of the Challenge Fund and how having a community council could actually bring in more project funding into your local villages and communities.
Thanks, John. I'll bring Derek back in.
Yes, Chair, we can certainly take that into account. In terms of funding as well, each community council also receives an annual grant, which is currently at the level of £1,000. So the level of challenge funding every year depends on the amount. It's essentially the amount left in the budget after we take out the annual grants, and the council also pays for blanket insurance for all community councils. So the £1,000 annual grant can be used for the admin costs for the community council, but also for other purposes as well. So that can also contribute towards the projects, including the Challenge Fund. So we'll certainly take that on board, and we'll look to use that as some of our publicity.
Excellent. Yeah, that's great. Any other questions or comments from members? No. In that case, the report is for noting. Recommendations at 3.1. Thank you. Item 24. This report seeks approval for the revised scheme of establishment of community councils and associated governance documents. The main changes to the scheme relate to increasing the minimum number of valid nominations to establish a community council from 4 to 6, introducing a mechanism to fill casual vacancies through co-option, and holding the AGM in May or June each year. The changes are also reflected in the model constitution. In addition, 2 new governance documents were created: model standing orders and a model code of conduct for community councillors, which are appended to the report. And again, Derek can speak to the report and answer members' questions.
Thank you, Chair. Again, the scheme of establishment and the governance documents have been amended, and it is hoped that the amendments will make it much easier for community councils to follow, and it will introduce a degree of resilience. I think, as Councillor Crichton just referred to in the previous item, there are defunct community councils. I think once you get to the end of the 4-year term, with inevitable resignations and drop in membership, it can be difficult for community councils to continue. The new scheme of establishment introduces the opportunity to fill remaining vacancies through co-option, and then after a period and resolution by the community council to move that co-option to full membership of the community council. So that should help. The other documents as well have been updated again to make ease of operation. We're also providing, which does need approval today, but we're also providing developing a handbook for community councillors, and also on training documents for chairs, treasurers, secretaries, and we'll be looking to provide ongoing engagement, support and training right throughout the term of the community councils. There were very limited comments from community councils or public or members to the consultations. It was 2 comments really seeking clarification, which has been answered. So we're looking for approval, and these will then, subject to the Coroner approving them next week and PNR approving today, be introduced for the new community councils later this year.
Thanks very much, Derek. A lot of the comments you made there with what I hear from community councils in terms of support, and the co-option one I think will be really useful, especially for our young people who come into this. They might be leaving school and be involved for a couple of years and leave, and then we might need to replace. So that co-option will definitely help that element. Any questions or comments from members? Councillor McLean.
Just a comment to Derek. I'm not on your committee. It's just that I was at a community council last night and forums came out, and one of the comments, or a number of comments within the members there was, why do I have to have an endorsement by another person? I know we have to, well, we put in for council, but could you do away with that and just get people to put in for it and then elect it? Because that is an added, I don't know, it's just an added thing. So that was the comments last night at the community council.
Yeah, we're running the community council elections on the existing scheme of establishment, which requires a proposer. That is being removed. So going forward, it'll be essentially self-nomination. So there'll be no requirement for.
Once this is approved.
No, going forward, we have to go on the existing documents, but that has been picked up going forward.
Okay, thank you for that. Any other questions or comments? No, in that case, do members agree to the recommendations for approval at paragraph 3.1? Agreed, thank you. Item 25 is reports outstanding, of which there are none for this committee. So we'll move into private shortly, but just to say the next scheduled meeting for the committee will be on 29th of November, 2023. So at this stage, we'll move into private.